Hello. To continue the vlog, right? So today I was thinking about something on how to manage configuration in Go projects. That was one issue that I was thinking about. So there was like a bunch of options. I think there was this other project also called go.env. Yeah, that I looked into which actually loads environmental file, right? It looks into an env file, and based on that, it loads it and exposes the application, right? Yeah, I was looking into now how do I go about managing configuration. I spent most of my last night looking into this, which was kind of really painful, right? Now, but I finally settled on Viper. I settled on Viper because, first of all, the community, and also I enjoy some of the practices that was involved. It offers the same, very similar in ability with go.env in the sense that it can load environmental variables. Well, yeah, it can load environmental variables, not just env files. It can load other kind of file types. For example, I think it can load env file, blah, 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 blah. Where is it? It supports env file, JSON, YAML. Then it has the ability to bind it into a particular struct. Let me give you an example in my project. Where is let me see. I'm trying to reshare my screen. And here's my project. Look at where in my GoCom. So I have my configuration, right? The one that holds my database configuration, my server configuration. Now this is my configuration, and this is my env file that I'm trying to that is supposed to bind is supposed to bind to this configuration itself. Now I'm using Viper to do the binding. Basically, you give Viper the name of the file, the type of the file, which is an env file. You can specify this part. You can tell Viper the path to look for this particular file, right? And you can tell it to do automatic env binding. If you see that I specify a couple of things, the map structure, right? I specify like a couple of things. So what is going to happen is that the Viper is going to match dbhost env is going to match that to these particular values, right? And basically you tell it to read the configuration file, which is this file. You tell it to read it, and on Marshall simply means like, kind of bind it to this config object, which is this guy, right? So it makes what I was looking for, right? It kind of like suits what I'm looking for over the go.env, because the go.env just exposes everything as environmental variable, whereas this loads the file and just then make that value, binds it to the particular struct for your configuration, which in this case is this. So that was one thing I really like, learned, I looked into yesterday, right? And it's a very good use case. Now my choice of configuration also played into how I'm going to write my test, right? Because I needed to, Viper requires a config file, right? It requires a config file, right? So I needed to find a way to run my test. And in my test, where's my test? Where's the model? I'll just go. All right, in my test file, start with test file. In my test file, let me see. Sorry, I'm still looking for the file. No, no, test go. Hmm, That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for. All right, this is like my init. So, right. So basically, when you load the model, right, it will try to load the text config, and when you're doing testing, you cannot just load an env file, because when you run your go test, your if you tell Viper to load the file, it's going to look into the current. It's going to, for example, if I'm trying to run this test and you tell Viper to load to load env file while running this test, it's going to look for the env file inside this package. So it's not going to look for this, or it's not going to look for this, the file that is specified. So the trick that I use in my run file was, I used in my workflow, I used the trick whereby I specify the test directory, then I look for that test directory. I tell Viper to look for that, to search that test directory, to search it for what we're looking for, right? Because Viper has the ability to search for a directory to find what it's actually looking for. So that was the approach that I took when I'm running my test. So this might be useful for someone who is running to the same problem, trying to use Viper during test. Just, you can use this logic, or if you have a better approach, you can put that in the comment section. So that's my progress so far, right? With the application, I am going to keep updating this channel. All right, thank you.